Alright, might as well start up again. A new day. A bunch of new animals to hunt. That's what I like to say. Say that all the time. It usually never makes sense, but now it actually kind of does. So I'll just kind of go over what we did last stream, just kind of wrap my memory around. I'm good making a website so I can capitalize it and make dummy cash. I like it. I like it. What type of website, Mr. Mousery? Anyway, last time, we started some basic, boring bureaucracy crap. But then we did what really matters. We started the hunt. We charted some good hunting spots. We've gotten some good animals assembled, and more importantly, we've had them added to our collection. Now, isn't that beautiful? It brings a tear to my eye. A niche website about automation, bot development, web scraping, web crawling. Dang, look at that gorilla. I know. Fuck. I was gonna... What? We shot him at a zoo over in America. We're not exactly sure what he was doing or why they even let us in, knowing our reputation, but they didn't mind too much. So yeah, I'm joking. R.I.P. Harambe, forever in our hearts. And I think in the last video we were starting to invite our friend over in France, but I'm starting to think that might not be the best idea, especially when there's a lion we can kill, boys. So I think we go after the lion next. I mean, I like the Lion King as much as anyone, but there's only one king in the Central African jungle, and that is Hermuller. I mean, look at that smile. I don't think a lion has as charming a smile as that. Definitely doesn't wear as cool a hat as that. So, yeah. And then afterwards, we might... Alright. Well... Again, we gotta make sure we don't, we gotta make sure we get this lion. So, don't lose the lion. And just to make a point, I don't really make too much of a point of save scumming. I've done it once or twice, actually, just when, I think in Transmore I did it once. But most of these saves I've done from my past couple series were, just when I was done with the day and wanted to go back, save so I could go back, and then I have like some mod saves. Compare that to all the ones I have for RK Zentralafrika. So I don't try to make it a frequent thing, but I think we all can agree this it's okay to save scum for. Who? Siegfried Mueller was relaxing after his near-daily morning exercises. Whilst tormenting himself mentally and physically earlier on, he took hold of a notion that didn't stop bugging him since he wanted to hang a lion's head on his trophy collection. Such a noble and famous beast's mark was still considerably lacking in his hall. It was one of the most famous and legendary predators in all of Africa, known in nearly every place around the world. In his office, he pondered over the map where every mark his scouts had made were centralized for posterity. He swiftly identified the two spots he preferred for the plentifulness of the animal he had to choose. On the one hand, there was more African locations I get a butcher. Nice. The Bateke Plateau, just slightly northwest of Leopoldville. It would be a straight flight, though a population thinned down ever since. The vast land there boasted every kind of savanna-natured animals, famously the lion amongst them. It made for the animals' preferred terrain, and thus a great hunting spot. On the other hand, his choice fell on the Virunga region. A flight to the north would lead along the Congo Lake. Beyond the Virunga Mountains, 8 volcanoes, the savanna-like flatland popularly hosted a wide array of lions. He now had to choose where he would find the most impressive game and where he would have the most luck with the noble lions. Right, it's some decision where we figure it out. We have a 50-50 shot right now. I think we go for volcanoes. Oh, that ruined our odds. Holy shit. Swift and noble. That means old and reliable. And God, we already ruined our odds. Well, the Reichskommissar was just finished with the assembling of his hunting crew. He went through the barracks and talked with officers about whose men were the best for hunting a lion. In the end, it was a rather simple assembly. Several veterans of the garrison with the best shooting records, one native of the Waffen-SS, known to be a remarkable huntsman, a mercenary more legendary for spending his time hunting than Mueller himself, and a local path tracker, whose reputation even impressed Mueller's scouting corps. They made themselves comfortable in the Grand Helicopter's cabin. Each of them was stern and serious, for they knew a lion was a rather rare hunting experience. Furthermore, they didn't want to disappoint their superior, whether for money or reputation. Everything was ready. The Reichskommissar rubbed his hands at the thought of slaying a noble lion soon. He pictured right in front of him, aiming at the ferocious beast and directly hitting it through his heart. Him approaching after the deadly blow, fascinated by the noble energy it radiated. However, he had to hold himself back, despite the glee of finally hunting again, for the hunt merely beckoned. Sound the horn, boys. We're coming. Ooh. We're closing in, Reichskommissar. The helicopter soared. Ahead were the Virunga Mountains, 8 impressive volcanoes surrounded by the light morning mist, immediately triggering mythical fantasies in Mueller's mind. One was higher than the other. Besides, they stretched for miles in either direction. Rocky formations of earth suggested that they were intended as steep pathways to reach the mountains, but Mueller knew. That's how volcanoes were supposed to look. The volcanoes' ascents were overgrown with jungle trees, though sparser than in other jungle ranges. All 8 volcanoes appeared in a mighty green, steadily rounding up the top into their clouded peaks. The lower levels of those beautifully shaped mountains, with their mysterious pathways and thicker undergrowth, obviously made for the better hunting spots. One of his companions joined him on the skids, shouting despite the noise, "How do you want to proceed? You seem to have gathered the essential details about the spot by now. The lions are obviously in the grasslands." A fine question, to be sure. Should we fly lower for a closer look, or would that give away the elements of surprise? The hunt might just be decided in this instance. I think we lower it, and that ruined our odds even closer. Please. Okay, come on. Okay, here we are. A pack of lions, graciously moving around his crosshairs. A male and 3 females, and what a sight the male's mane was. He was astonished by the gracious movement, closely examining the sinews every moment. He hovered above the noble animal with his reticle for some time. It was simply amazing. He couldn't have hoped for a better lion. For some time, Mueller forgot why he was there, amazed by the caramel-colored mane, the fur that shined in the sun, and the meticulous movement of a whole pack. He had his desired target. Should his companions concern themselves with the females? He would go for this one. One last adjustment. He was ready. He started counting down his head like always. Right, everyone now. Everyone. Try. Zwei. Eins. He's shot. Let's go! The bullet hit the lion's neck, splattering blood onto the beautifully colored mane. It silently collapsed. Let's get some poggers and you're already ahead of me, Matthew. Thank you. It already collapsed as if kingdom could come. Suddenly decided the lion shouldn't live any longer. Mueller shat on the superstitious nonsense. Ooh, we should probably do a new focus. But though two of the female lions took to the flight, one remained like it was bound to the male for all time. It was certainly after its companions penetrated the main less female with numerous shots, splattering guts and brains everywhere. Fortunately, he didn't submerge his prime prize. He didn't care for the female as long as the male was untouched. They approached with the dead animals on the ground. Step after step, Mueller's grin widened. He was happy beyond belief. He had slain some female lions and merely one male lion before, but not as ferociously glorious one. Gladly, this particularly rare specimen, its great mane and head, were about to embellish the halls of his palace and bestow upon it a predatory ferocity and feral nobleness his collection still lacked. Mueller quickly took hold of a mane, making sure it wasn't dusted by sand or anything. Now he descended on the beast, cutting down the last boundary that separated Mueller from his trophy. He just couldn't wait. We did it, guys. We killed Simba. You know, we should probably actually do some infrastructure stuff, as boring as that is. But we're not going to do that. We're going to kill an elephant instead. The noble lion in the palace. There it was, perfectly in place. The equally beautiful, ferocious, noble, majestic mane fit there excellently. Mueller was overexcited to have visitors gaze upon the grandeur that his collection now boasted, thanks to the lion's head, noble and stalwart. The grand collection, still early in development, and the head of a noble king of the African wildlife complemented each other flawlessly. The lion's head promised to impress each and any visitor Mueller hosted. Besides, it promised to draw attention from anyone who'd hear about Mueller slaying a grand lion, and he'd make sure everyone knew of it. He looked at the positioning of a head, perfectly placed in the center as the collection's new crown jewel. The Reichskommissar crossed his arms and proudly contemplated his work. He had slain this beast. What a story to tell. No one could flee it now, with the awe-inspiring lion's head being the incarnation of a hunting tale worth to tell. The imposing look let the Reichskommissar drift into a hunter's fantasy, already imagining a completed trophy collection soon. Oh, so soon. Let's take a look. Oh! Oh! Whoo! God damn. That's pretty good. That is nice. Whew! I enjoy the sight of that. Oh, Simba, how the mighty have fallen. Ew. I already had it open. I was reading it the wrong way. Oh. You may be the Lion King, but I'm king of the jungle, bitch. Anywho. I think it's time to go after the elephant, boys. Elephants are a strength of nature, as large as a small building, and capable of trampling even a light tank with their strength. These beasts can resist even several bullets with their endurance and thick skins. Still, Mueller has several high-piercing explosive rounds at his disposal that will make short work of even the most stubborn of these proud animals. Their horns will make a fine trophy if we manage to engrave them with the history of our triumphs. We're doing it. We're killing a goddamn elephant. We don't have a Volkswagen investments anymore, which is a shame. We gotta figure out who we want to invite to our next. Oh. Alright, let me check the loyalty real quick. First I gotta figure out, wait, are we not done with that infrastructure yet? No, we are. Okay. Wait. Reach level 1 infrastructure in Boma. Don't we already... We have level 2 infrastructure there in Boma, so I don't know what they're talking about. Mining in the Congo is primarily conducted by 3 corporations, BCK, UMHK, and the Formenere. Fucking French, I don't know. However, one true force dominates above all others: violence. From forcibly conscripted labor to the hellish working conditions and the scars on the earth which the mines leave behind, danger abounds. and no one escapes unharmed. But the most dangerous job of all is transporting products along the colony's rickety jungle roads to the ports of the Congo Mir. Considering the staggering number of mercenaries employed as guards and overseers, these trips often turn into fights, as the three leading companies license their men to engage in a bloody form of cutthroat competition while paying us to look the other way. For critical missions like moving uranium, the state will provide airlift or SS troops, but in all other circumstances, companies have to pay for the privilege of hiring out security. Private wars demand private armies, but there's nothing stopping us from making a quick buck on the side as a middleman. To that end, Formenaret has just requested that we provide security for an upcoming diamond convoy from Kasai, and we're kind enough to forward a rather large insurance co-payment. All major mercenaries have permanent contracts with one firm or the other, so we'll have to turn to more minor outfits to meet their demands. We have Bob Denard, a major Formenaret contractor, has recommended the eager French officer Philippe Erulin and his group of paratroopers experienced in unconventional warfare. Then there's Duck Vanderland, a relative newcomer who has recently crossed the border from South Africa to enter the business. He has already made quite a name for himself for his bravery in combat, and this mission could be a big break. I thought that was a Dutch Vanderland for a second from Red Dead. So I was a little excited. Finally, there's a more conservative Pat Smith, a by-the-books, if uncreative officer we've long employed to train our local troops, and who's always proven capable of following the orders to a T. I don't know, who's the most pissed off at us? We can afford to piss off the French. Maybe not the Anglos, but probably the French. Oh, we only have the option to piss off one, another one, or both of the others. I just want to piss off the French, damn it. Speed and supply. I guess we'll go with Smith. Yeah, the Belgians are pissed off, but you know what? We'll just hire them. There we go. Alright, convoy spread down the road, da-da-da. In Zentralafrika, do as you please, as long as dead are Anglos, Belgians, or Congolese. That's a nice rhyme. I actually feel worthwhile rhyming that. As the convoy sped down the road, as much as I wanted, Dilfia Elefante. As the convoy sped down the road, a Panzerfaust roared past one of the vehicles, a near miss down, but a clear signal to Pat Smith in order to order his mostly native men to open fire. The thump-thump-thump of a grenade launchers joined the ear-piercing rattles of the MG-42s as the convoy picked up speed. Rather than stand and fight, Pat's thought not only of glory but of a client. Getting the diamonds out of a kill zone was his highest priority. That ceased to be an option, however, when the ambushers blew their charges and the trees nearest to the road came tumbling down. This was a dramatic and unusual escalation. These kinds of mercenary raids were often quick and decisive, a gentlemanly sort of affair. In a world where you never know who's tomorrow's business partner would be, the goal was to complete the contract, not to wipe out the other side. But Major Hoare and his all-white commando wanted to send a message to Denard and the rest of his cronies at Formenaret. Don't send a native to do a white man's job. In Smith, however, Hoare had found a worthy match. He had trained his natives well, and even as their casualties mounted in the crossfire, they held firm. Smith knew that Hoare couldn't spare as many losses as he could, for white replacements were so much harder to come by. Finally, after a 2-hour fight, Hoare's men silently crept back into the jungle, dragging their wounded with them. Smith stood from behind the smoldering Kubai, where he'd taken cover. His unit was down to half its normal effectives, much higher casualties than typical in these engagements, and several of the vehicles were inoperable, but the cargo was safe, at least until Hoare had regrouped. Smith knew he had to hurry. He wiped down his brow and barked orders to his men to clear the roadblock ahead and load the diamonds into the remaining trucks. And as he did so, the single adage so familiar to mercenaries sprang into his ears. In Central Africa, do what you please, as long as the dead are Anglos, Belgians, or Congolese. The Reichskommissar was standing in front of his trophy collection, standing in front of what he had achieved so far. Looking at the central part of it, he saw what he accomplished over the last weeks and months. Not as much as in the years prior, but he was certain he could shame his past self by completely indulging into hunting for the next week as well. One animal prominently missed in the whole of his collection. He had shot yet only slain one of their kind. They were too robust, but he was confident this time he'd hunt an elephant. In his office, he pondered over a map where every mark his scouts had made were centralized for posterity, of course. Swiftly identified 2 spots he preferred for the plentifulness of the animal. He had to choose. On one hand, there was the northeastern base of the Congo Lake, which hosted a great deal of savanna animals. It was one of the greener places of a usually believed to be dusty savannas. The grassy savannas near the lake, recently trimmed from thick canopies, could make for an excellent hunting spot, maybe with a comfortable layover in Hitlerstadt. On the other hand, his choice fell on the Bas Ule again, a vast savanna that was a patchwork of grass and steppe, far to the northeast of Congo Lake. The long flight might pay off with a broad plentifulness of the animal. The savannas were made for its perfect breeding ground. He now had to choose where he would find the most impressive game and where he would have the most luck with enormous elephants. I think Basuele sounds like a good place. You never know if there's horny elephants. You never know. And my odds went down horribly. God damn it. I'm terrible at guessing this shit. I really am. Oh, fuck. I forgot to save. Okay. Okay. Again. So. I think we're gonna go with modern equipment. Because, I mean, elephants are kind of quick, but they're also pretty, they're big boys. They're thick boys. They are thick with 2 C's, not CK, 2 C's. So I think modern and swift is the way to go. Siegfried Mueller stood in front of a trophy collection again before boarding his helicopter to fly off. He contemplated his work thus far and left the hall, nodding to himself all the while. As a grand helicopter, he instructed his crew for the hunt one last time. It was his biggest so far, for they were hunting one of the biggest African beasts. Numerous of the highest-ranking veterans of the garrison, a contingent of natives of Waffen-SS on a separate helicopter to provide for extra shooting power, legendary mercenaries of the famous group called the Predators, and a path tracker native to their hunting destination. Each of them was equipped with extra ammunition to slay at least 1 elephant. Mueller knew from these previous occasions that much ammo was needed to fell these monstrosities. Everything was ready. The Reichskommissar rubbed his hands at the thought of slaying a mighty elephant soon. My hands are sweaty. I gotta stop rubbing them. Jesus. He pictured it right in front of him, aiming at the gargantuan beast and hitting it through the heart, and finally hanging the head of a biggest terrestrial mammal. However, he had to hold himself back, despite the glee of hunting again, for the hunt merely beckoned. Sound our biggest and loudest horn, the most expensive hunt yet. I don't want to know how much this cost. We're closing in, Reichskommissar. Finally, the pilot's words saved him from completely drifting into the heavens of a hunt. Excitedly, he grabbed for the supporting bars and positioned himself on the skids, windy air blowing around his face. Below, the helicopter followed the Uele River, dark brown with mud as it snaked through the jungle. Eventually, they saw what they had come for on the horizon. The helicopter soared. Ahead was Basuele. On one side lay hills covered in grasslands, with clusters of trees filling in the valleys, snaking around the creeks and rivers yet unknown. On the other side was miles upon miles of an uninterrupted jungle, thick and lush, concealing the ground from the view of the air. Almost anything could be found in these regions, and that what made them so attractive for today's hunts. One of his companions joined him on skids, shouting despite the noise. Say it with me, guys. How do you want to proceed? You seem to have gathered the essential details about the spot by now. The elephants are obviously in the jungle. A fine question, to be sure. Should they fly lower for a closer look, or would that give away the element of surprise? Let's try to stay unnoticed. A slight 1% bonus. Alright, boys. Ready the drum rolls. Siegfried Mueller felt like an orchestra's conductor, giving orders to all his hunting companions. This was the most exciting hunt so far, without a doubt. It felt like the dawn of a tiny battle. Well, Mueller brought a small army of hunters, to be sure. The path's tracker finally spotted a group of elephants. Mueller barked the orders. Now the hunt was on. It looked like a family of elephants. A few kids, one half-grown teen, a female, and an older male. At least Mueller pictured it like that in his head. He made some gestures, providing the necessary orders to his crew. He and his veterans would go for the mightiest of a traveling group. The natives were supposed to circle the smaller ones and shoot as much of them as possible to satisfy the mercenaries that insisted to be paid in ivory. Therefore, the predator concerned themselves with hunting another group of elephants farther to the north. There were more of them, but all of them smaller. Yet Mueller wanted the mightiest elephant's head. Thus he decided on this particular one. One last gesture. They were ready. He started counting on his hand for his companions to see. Can we get some drum rolls, boys? 3, 2, 1. Shots fired. Let's go! Let's go! The bullets flew everywhere, an orgy of blood, gore, soot, and dead animals. Most of the younglings had collapsed by the time Mueller and his veterans sent shot after shot into the flesh of the mightiest of them. Shot after shot arose and sank down again, struggling with an unyielding will to survive. Everyone had reloaded by this point. Mueller even thought about going for the head. Yet he didn't want to besmirch his trophy. It finally fell for the last time in a long-drawn act of what could have been a staged death in a Shakespearean drama. Not that he ever read or saw one, but he imagined them like that. Finally, the dust settled. They made the tallies on the ground. The female was about to flee out of her eyesight when the predators appeared and slew the beast in a few shots. After adding her bloodied ivory to their reservoir, they greeted Mueller with a bunch of smaller and bigger, potentially red-colored tusk backpacked. He'd slain only one of these mighty creatures, yet he had slain the biggest and wouldn't give the slightest cell of it away. Though they arrogantly asked for his acquired tusk, he sent them away towards the killed younglings. It feels like fucking... What's the third Star Wars prequel where Anakin kills the younglings? It feels like that. They made their tallies on the ground. The female was about to flee out of her eyesight when the predator... Oh, I read that. Mueller quickly took hold of one of the tusks and made certain they were his, engraving a small Siegfried on one of them. Now he ordered the veterans to help him finally claim his trophy, and lots of cutting began. What's the next hunt? You know, we should actually do some infrastructure stuff. Let's work on the hub of Africa. With Suez under Italian control, those ungrateful bastards charge our ships way too much to trade for the channel. A viable economic choice. This means that the only way to reach Africa from Germany is to circumnavigate Spain and the Gulf of Guinea, as Vasco da Gama and other ancient explorers did back in the day. The logical consequence of this is that Central African ports are the closest to the mainland Reich, making us the Afrikaner trade hub. While this means lots and lots of money flowing into our colonial efforts, it also means that we have a duty to maintain this large dockyard facilities dotting our short coastline. If a diamond trade were to suddenly halt due to malfunctioning loading cranes, Mueller would experience a new kind of hunt, one where he's the prey, and the hunter has an atomic arsenal. We should probably deal with that, so we can hunt more. The head was carried into the hall, Mueller standing by all the while to make sure it was in the perfect condition. The equally immense and impressive head with these huge tusks would fit his collection excellently. Mueller was overexcited to have visitors gaze on the importance that his collection now hosted thanks to the elephant's gargantuan head. The grand collection finally developing and sharpening up to become something, and the head of a midas of the African wildlife complemented each other flawlessly. The elephant's head promised to let any visitor feel small and lost compared to its monstrous size. Much like... You know, I was going to make a dick joke, but... Yeah. Penis. There we go. He looked at the head before its positioning. made some small adjustments to the trophy, and began instructing the concierges. The Reichkommissar crossed his arms and proudly contemplated his work. He'd slain this beast. What a story to tell. No one could flee it now, with the magnificent elephant's head hanging there to force even the shyest visitor to ask for a hunting story. The imposing look let the Reichskommissar shut up timer. Drift into a hunter's fantasy, being rushed with adrenaline, as if he was hunting the beast all over again.